So the stock market, we're going to get a nice little intro today. I found this quote I thought was interesting. The safe way to double your money is to fold it over once and put it in your pocket. Why would somebody say a quote like that talking about the stock market? Right, what can happen with the stock market? It can crash. You can think you're investing in a great product, great company, and what could happen? It can completely fall out. Think about like when Blu-rays came out. Do you guys remember what also came out with Blu-rays? There was HD, high def DVDs. Like you had to like gamble like which one's it gonna be. My brother guessed wrong. He bought a whole bunch of HD DVDs and they fell off. So if you invested all your money in the stock market in that company, what would have happened? You'd have lost it all because you chose poorly. So you got to be careful when you're picking to invest. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Ugh. See, I'm just too chicken to even like money to me. Like I'm thrifty. I'm a garage sailor kind of person. To take my money and like, oh, I just can't imagine. I would cry so bad if all my money got lost in the stock market, like overnight, 10 grand overnight, gone. It's crazy. All right. Just some interesting things as I was kind of looking through some different data as I was pulling this stuff out. Amazon was originally Cadabra.com. Abracadabra. But they decided to change it because the Amazon River has the biggest volume. Think about Amazon, they sell a large volume of products on there. So it's more of a fitting name. Plus, they wanted it to start with an A, so alphabetically it would show up at the top of the list. I mean, Cadabra's a C. It wouldn't be that far down. Adidas. A lot of people always say it's all day I dream about sports. You know, that's a lot of times what people think about that. But it's actually because of the founder, Adolf Dassler. He was called Addy, so A-D-I, and then there's the D-A-S. It's actually named after him. You know, he's not from this country. He's not from this country. And then eBay, they wanted to name it Echo Bay. I don't know why they wanted it to be called Echo Bay, but that was already taken by a gold mining company, so that's why it got shortened to eBay. I thought that was interesting, just kind of where those names came from. All right, so in section 1.1, our learning targets, which I'm already slacking and they're not written on the board back there, sorry. It's to learn the basic vocab because there's a lot of vocab in this section. And like this whole chapter, it's getting like acclimated to all this like stock stuff. It's very different wording. And also we're going to look at actually doing some computations. So how many of you have your calculator today? Hopefully you do. Guys, we're going to need those every single day, so start bringing your calculators. So we're actually going to do some different things, like with the ratios of companies, percentages, if you're a stockholder, how much you own, things like that. We're going to start computing some of that today. Regular calculator's fine. All right, so some vocab. I thought about just writing like the vocab term and then like the definition, like old school. But like this actually came straight from your textbook, and it just made more sense to me to like read it as opposed to just here's the word, here's the definition. So that's the way I put it in there. And I apologize, when it printed, it apparently doesn't like my highlight on here, so it didn't put those words. So you can fill the words in as we go. Okay, so the money used to start or expand a business is called capital. Just make sure you fill in capital. So I'm not thinking about capital of a state or something like that. Capital is the money that you're using to start your company. A business owned by one person is a sole proprietorship. If you think about sole, you think about that's one, right? If you think about that. So one person is owning it, and it's called a proprietorship. That's probably a different word than you've ever heard. The owner or proprietor can hire people to help run the business, but these employees are not owners. So all of you that have jobs, do you own the company that you work for? Some of you may, but most of you probably not. Right, no, like you probably do because your parents own a gaming store. So when Noah works there, his family owns that. So technically, you know, you're part owner of that. All right, the owner is responsible for all expenses, including labor and raw materials used in manufacturing a product or providing a service. So whoever owns the company, they have to pay for everything that the company needs. That comes out of their pocket. The money left after all expenses have been paid is the profit. I'm assuming you guys would recognize profit. The money that you make in addition to like whatever you've put in. That's your definition of a lot of money. All right. The owner of the sole proprietorship is entitled to all the profits. You're like, yeah, I'm going to have my business. I'm going to start it. All the money I make, I get to keep. But keep in mind, you are also responsible or personally liable for all the losses. So if your company doesn't make any money, you still are responsible for all that money that needs to be paid. Or let's say your company is worth $100. You're not running a very good company, and you get sued for $1 million. Do you have to pay the extra money? You are personally liable. How you pay it is up to you, but you are personally liable. If you are a sole proprietorship, make sure you're making this connection. Sole proprietorship, you are personally liable. So anything, if you get sued and your company's not worth that much, sorry, you're going to have to mortgage your house or do whatever you have to do because you are responsible for that money. All right, even if the business does not make a profit, the owner must still pay all the bills of the business. So it's kind of risky to start your own business because if you're not making money, you still have to pay all the bills that come in, okay? All right, next part. A business that is owned by a group of people called partners is a partnership. So if there's one person, it's a sole proprietorship. If you have a group of people, they're your partners, and it's a partnership. Right. Partners share the profits and the responsibility for any losses. So you and your friends go in together, then all of you and your friends together better be working, and you have to share the cost of everything. The partners, again, are personally liable for any losses. So you get sued for $1 million, you're going to have to take however much money and divide it amongst your partners, and you guys will all have to pay together to cover that. All right, personal liability may require risking personal property. You may have to mortgage your house, sell your car, sell off everything you own to try to pay for that. Sole proprietors and partners must consider this possibility when you start a business. All right, questions so far on all the vocab? No? I'm not exactly sure how the bankruptcy stuff works. Thankfully, I've never had to, so I don't know a whole lot about it. All right, this one, I think it's on there because I forgot to highlight before I printed. A corporation, now here's a difference, okay? A corporation is a business organization that can be owned by one person or a group of people. Each owner who invests money in the corporation receives shares of stock in the corporation. All right, the owners are called shareholders. Stock certificates are used as proof of ownership. Now here's the big difference here. Unlike sole proprietorships and partnerships, the shareholders in a corporation have limited liability. Okay, what was the liability before? Personally liable. So you personally have to take on that cost. But if you're a corporation, you have a limited liability. Each owner cannot lose more than the value of his or her share of the business. So if you're only worth $10 and you get sued for $1 million, how much money do the people get who sued you? $10. Because you don't have to pay for anything beyond that. That's all the business is worth. That's all you pay. Now you'd lose your business, but you wouldn't personally have to cover that cost. All right, the number of shareholders in a corporation depends on the structure of the business. When anyone can purchase stock in a corporation, it's called a public corporation. So you think about all the things on the stock market, those are public corporations. So like Nike, McDonald's, Apple, all of that stuff. Like you can get on right now and you could purchase stock in those companies. JCPenney's probably one of the cheaper ones, right? Or Bic pens, $1. It's more my speed. Not Samsung, $2,000 or whatever it was. Okay, so let's kind of start looking at some examples. So if you do not have a calculator out in front of you, go ahead and pull yours out or grab one of the graphing ones at the back. We're just using your basic add, subtract, multiply, divide kind of buttons today. Okay, so Michelle invests $15,000 in a partnership that has 4 other partners. So how many people are there altogether? There are 5 altogether. She has 4 other partners. The total investment of all partners is $240,000. What percent of the business does Michelle own? Any guess? Is it even? Do they all own the exact same amount? No. So how do we figure out how much she owns? No?
So we can take 15 divided by 40 divided by 15, and then that's the one share of the business.
You're close. Jessica? Yes. Yes. I'm probably not going to set it up that way, but yes. Yeah, so if you think about like how you find percentages and whatnot, she owns 15,000 out of the total 240,000. That's how much she owns. So we can go ahead and divide that. Think about it on a test. If you got 20 out of 25 on your test, you would divide that and then multiply by 100, change it to percent. Okay, so make sure you're watching what I'm asking for, because different questions I might ask for a percentage or I might ask for something different. So be careful on what I'm asking. Well, what do we get when we divide 15,000 divided by 240,000? Now, if you're uncomfortable moving like the decimal point, just multiply by 100 to change it, because this is going to give you 0.0625. So if we go ahead and multiply that by 100, that'll change it to a percent. So she actually owns 6.25%. So is she a major shareholder in the company? 6 point. Make sure decimal point you can see. You only put it as 24,000 as opposed to 240,000. You lost a zero. There you go. Does that make sense? How we figure out the percentage of that? Kind of think about it as a test. If I got a 20 out of 25 on a test, I would divide that and see my percentages. Okay? Nope. Now that's good to point out. Did we need to know that? No, I didn't. So a lot of times in these problems, they'll give you more info than you need. All right, so next one. Kyle invests $20,000 in a partnership that has 5 other partners. The total investment of the partners is $160,000. What percent of the business is owned by the 5 other partners? Jessica. Good. That'd be good. That's a great way to do it. There's another way you could do that one. Yeah. How'd you get that? Okay. I'm just checking your math here real quick. We all make errors. I'm not saying you're wrong. Good. He got 12.5. It'd be 12.5%, right? We divide that, multiply it by 100. And then, wait, what did you do with this? Why is that not the answer? What is this? Good. This is what Kyle invested. That's his. He owns 12.5%. But the question asks what percent of the business is owned by the 5 other partners. So then we can just do 100 minus 12.5. And what do we get? Is there another way we could have done this, Josh? Okay, I like that. Anyone else do anything different? Yeah. Say that one more time. Dividing the 160 by the 20,000 actually doesn't help in this case. But there is another way we could have done it. If he invested 20,000, how much did everybody else invest? 140,000, right? So you could have just done 140,000 divided by 160, and it would get you to that answer without subtracting it. So that's another way you could have gone. Doesn't matter. I think probably majority of you would have went here, found out his, and then subtracted it. Okay, but again, be careful. Did I need to know that there were 5 other partners? No, I really didn't. But I needed to know there were other partners, but how many of them didn't really matter. It was irrelevant. Okay, next one. The total number of shares of stock in the Bulls Corporation is 650,000 shares of stock. It's a lot of people investing. Mike owns 12% of the shares. How many shares of Bulls Corporation stock does he own? How do you figure it out? Why 0.12? Good. To change percents, how do you change a percent to a decimal? Move the decimal 2 spots, or if you're really not sure, you have to divide it by 100. Yeah. If you divide by 100, that's going to change it into 0.12. So how many shares of stock does he own? 78,000. Do me a favor, try to make sure you're labeling your answers. Remember from like grade school, if it's a story problem, you should label your answer. We deal with primarily story problems in this class. This class is very real world. So quite often you get in the habit of putting a dollar sign on everything in this section. Not everything's money. Okay, in this case, it was how many shares they had. Questions on that one? Jill owns 60% of the stock in a private catering corporation. There are 1,200 shares in the entire corporation. How many shares does Jillian own? Go ahead and take a second and try this one on your own. All right, so Jillian owns 60%. So how do you write 60% as a decimal? And then there are 1,200 shares. So we're going to multiply that together, and how many shares does she own? Now, a good question came up. The question was, why were we dividing on problems back here, but now we're multiplying? I want to make sure everyone's clear on what we're doing. If you're dividing, what were we trying to find? We were finding a percent. But look at the problems we're working on now. The percent is given to us, so we're not trying to find that percentage. Okay? So if you need to find a percent, you have to divide. But if you have the percent, then you multiply. All right, 3 partners are investing a total of $900,000 to open a garden and landscaping store. Their investments are in the ratio 2 to 3 to 5. How much does the partner that invested the least contribute? I don't know about your experience in algebra class, but some of you might be crying a little bit when you see problems like this. I'm actually going to show you how to solve this without taking the algebraic approach. Okay? I think it makes more sense. For those of you who like algebra, something like that. Who laughed? Don't laugh at that. Algebraically, you would do like 2x plus 3x plus 5x, and you put the x's in there, and you set it up in an equation, and you'd solve that, which works, but I don't think it explains to you as much what is happening. Okay? So if they're in the ratio 2 to 3 to 5, how many different pieces? So this person owns 2 pieces of the company. They own 3 pieces of the company, and they own 5 pieces of the company. So there are altogether 10, right? 2 plus 3 plus 5. So I would like you to try to get in the habit of recognizing how many shares or pieces or chunks or whatever of the company there are, because that's going to help you out. So the question's talking about who invested the least. So which one's the least? The 2. So this means the person who owns 2 out of the total 10 shares. So he owns 2/10 of the company, or 1/5 of the company. That way, to me, that just makes more sense in your head. Like how much, if I have 2x and 3x and 5x, and I'm like, well, how much of the company do they own? You're like, I don't know. But to look at it as, oh, he owns 2 out of the possible 10. He owns 2/10 or 1/5 of the company. That makes more sense to me. All right. So if they're investing a total of $900,000, and you know he owns 2/10 of it, what should I do with the 2/10 and the $900,000? Multiply them. And you know what? You use calculators. Do I have to simplify the 2/10? No. Just type it in and see what we get. Now, on the graphing calculators, reminder of the buttons there. If you hit the green button and then y equals, it brings up your fraction menu. Just hit enter, and then you can type in the 2/10. You'll have to arrow to the right to get out of the bottom of that fraction, and then type in 900,000. Green, y equals. Hit enter. Does it bring up a little fraction for you? Hit the green button. And then the y equals button. There you go. Hit. You just want that first one, the one that's already on. Hit enter. Oh, hold on. Clear all of this. Start with that first. Hit green. Y equals. Hit enter. There you go. Now you can type your fraction. That works. All right. Yes? Yes. What's my label? Is that shares? Is that money? What is this? That is share. It's money, because this 900,000 that was money. So he invested $180,000. That's the smallest investor. I don't know where these people are getting their money, but that's the smallest investor right there. Okay, so anytime you see these ratios, your first instinct should be to add them up, right? That's going to be how many total shares there are, so you can kind of figure this out. Okay, questions there? Logan, Erica, and Mary invested in a partnership in the ratio 1 to 4 to 7, respectively. What does this word respectively mean? No. See how their names were listed? Logan, then Erica, then Mary? Logan, then Erica, then Mary. So it goes in the same order that their names were listed. That's what that means. Okay, that way, otherwise you're like, wait a minute, how do I know which one's which? It's the order in which their names are listed. Years later, when the partnership was worth $1.6 million, Erica decides to go to graduate school and sells her part of the partnership to Logan. How much would Logan need to pay Erica to buy her share of the business? Round to the nearest dollar. Good. So right away, you're recognizing that we have a total of 12 pieces, right? So whose do we need to look at? Who's selling theirs? Erica. So if Erica was the second name, which one's her? 4. So she's 4 out of 12. Right? That one's Erica's out of the total 12 possible shares there. So how much is hers worth? I have to do 4/12 times what? Anybody know what 1.6 million really means? Very nice. That means 1,600,000. You can't just type in 1.6 million. Like your calculator doesn't have a button that says million on it. So we need to recognize that's 1,600,000. Okay. So again, let's go ahead and grab the calculators. And we can type in 4/12 times 1,600,000. How much would Logan need to pay Erica? So we get a number? And 33 cents. But it says round to the nearest dollar. If you didn't get that, double check what you typed in your calculator. Ooh, be careful. It is 0.3 repeating. So by you writing it this way, that's 3/10. Yeah, so be careful of that. I would hit the fraction button, hit the green, and then this, and just hit equals. And then you can type the actual fraction in there. All right, other questions on that part? All right, take a look at part B. What percent of the business will Logan own after he buys Erica's portion? Round to the nearest 1/10 of a percent. You can go ahead and sharpen it. Now, are we talking about any of the money right now? No, it wants to know what percent of the business. Well, what percent, what does he own now? Right now, Logan, first name is only 1, but he's buying Erica's, so he'll own 5 out of 12. Well, how do I figure out what percent that is? Do I need the $1.6 million in this? No. Just 5 divided by 12 times 100. Round to the nearest 1/10 of a percent. 41.7%. Yeah, be very careful. The trickiest thing with these problems is knowing what it's asking and which info you need to kind of take from that. Okay? Just about taped my butt. All right, questions on this one? Yeah, we're getting there. I want to make sure we have time to work today. All right, a private corporation owned by 35 shareholders is worth $1.7 million. The corporation loses a lawsuit worth $3 million. What is the value of any personal property of the shareholders that can be taken to pay the settlement? I see where you're going with that, Noah. I see where you're going. But everyone's missing one major key component to this. Okay? Why? So what's the value of any personal property that they have to fess up? None. That was the thing that we were missing. It is a corporation. Corporations have which type of liability? Limited. Which means if they're being sued for $3 million, but they're only worth 1.7, whoever's suing them, how much are they going to get? 1.7. It is still a nice chunk. It is. But I need you to make sure you're watching for that, because this is a corporation. They do not have personal liability. They do not have to pay anything out of their own pocket. Whatever the company's worth, that's what they can pay from. Okay? All right, a partnership owned equally by 13 partners is worth $1.3 million. The partnership loses a lawsuit worth $3 million. What is the value of any personal property each partner must forfeit to pay the settlement? Do they have personal liability? Yes. Since this is a partnership, they will have to pay out of pocket. So I do have to do some math on this one. Okay, so their company's worth $1.3 million. So that'll take care of part of it. How much do they still have to worry about? Good. So right now, kind of to start here, they're being sued for $3 million. We can subtract off the $1.3 million, or $1,300,000, right? Because the company's going to take care of part of that. So they're going to have to come up with $1.7 million to finish covering the cost of that. But a question asks, what's the value of any personal property each partner? How do you figure it out? What would be my next step? Divide it by 13. You got point something? So they each, you should have gotten $130,769.23. Yeah, so 1.7 million divided by the 13 people. They all have an equal share. They all have to equally pay for that. So some of them are going to lose their houses. I mean, that's the sad truth of it. So if you're going into a business with other people, you better make sure that either you're confident you're going to make money and not have something like this happen, or you need to turn it into a corporation so that you're not liable. Or one of the partners is rich and they decide to help you out. I don't know those people. Kohl's Lemonade, Inc. Right? You need a corporation so you don't have to pay for all that. I get sick from drinking your lemonade, I'm suing you. I'm going to take your business. But if you're in a corporation, you're okay. You'll just lose your business. All right. This question's on your notes. We're going to go ahead and skip that one. All right. But before